Hello, my name is Joshua Carvajal, and this is my midterm medium project. What is synesthesia and why might you have it? Let me ask you a question. Do you perhaps feel or see anything when I play something like this? Or maybe a little something like this? If your answer is no, then you're probably not part of the 2 to 4% of the world that has something called synesthesia. Now, what is synesthesia? Well, let me explain. Synesthesia is a phenomenon that basically causes a stimulus or inducer to produce some additional experience. For example, a sound or even a letter may trigger you to experience a specific color, such as perhaps blue, or perhaps red, or perhaps yellow. And you get the idea. It goes on and on. Now, how might this phenomenon sort of connect back to our lectures? Well, as we've learned, psychology has a lot to do with sensation and perception. But because of synesthesia, we know that perception is not only based on what we sense, pretty insane. Our brain can actually add extra experiences that aren't physically there. And although we know of this, there are parts that we still struggle with, such as exactly why these experiences arise. It's a very subjective experience from person to person, and that's what psychologists are struggling to understand, how to explain the mechanisms of subjective experiences, such as maybe something as feeling the wind on your face on a sunny day. Well, in the article, The Merit of Synesthesia in Consciousness Research, we actually find out that many believe that synesthesia could be a good opportunity to actually look deeper into this issue. With synesthesia, often two senses are present, those two being hearing and color vision. Now, both of these work together to achieve the same subjective experience, which is that the color that they see when they hear these sounds. Something interesting that we now know because of synesthesia is that the brain can create experiences such as colors or sensations, but even for people without synesthesia, our brain is always filling in gaps. This means that what we see as individuals, synesthesia or not, might not always be a carbon copy of the real world because our brain is constantly filling in gaps. It's very subjective. Now, I've mentioned that hearing plays a part in synesthesia. We know that now. But how exactly would it play a part? Well, the article Synesthesia and Music Perception tells us that when people with synesthesia hear music, they can literally see different colors all around, which is pretty crazy. The most interesting part is that we are literally theorized to all have it to a certain degree. Let me explain. We already listen to music and perceive it through different senses involuntarily, as I explained earlier. We associate certain things with certain things. The article actually states that there is a strong association between treble and brighter colors, bass and darker shades, and loud sounds and larger shapes, and that's largely shared. These sort of connections we already have in our brain. We automatically have our associations with music. We have even gotten results from the article that provide us with evidence that synesthesia is located at one end of a spectrum, or normal and adaptive perceptual processes. What does this mean? Well, this means that this phenomenon is just an extreme version of our normal perception, meaning all of us are somewhere on that spectrum, which is pretty interesting. Well, whatever the case may be, synesthesia an extremely interesting phenomenon that even helps us study the brain and how it works. The way synesthesia makes people perceive colors that aren't actually there shows that perception does not solely depend on senses, but rather on how our brains process and connect information. Meaning, what we perceive in our daily lives isn't solely just reality, but rather what our brains interpret as reality based on memory and the connections our brains make. And that's pretty amazing. Thank you for listening.